Hey there. Welcome back to the stuff you should think about. I'm G. And if you ever cringed at the sound of your own voice, like really cringe, you're not alone. In fact, I'd bet money that about 80% of you just nodded along with that. Today, we're diving into a question that's both deeply personal and oddly universal. Why do we hate the sound of our own voice? Now, I'm not here to diagnose your dislike of your voice or tell you to love it. Instead, I want to unpack this phenomenon, what causes it, how it ties into our sense of self, and maybe why it's worth thinking about a little deeper. Let's start, as I often do, with a confession. A few years ago, I did something brave or foolish, depending on how you look at it. I recorded myself reading a poem. Nothing too dramatic, just a few verses from a Mary Oliver collection. But when I played the recording back, I nearly dropped my phone. That wasn't my voice, was it? It sounded higher pitched, kinda robotic, like a character of a person I thought I sounded like. I couldn't stop laughing, and I cringed at the same time. It got me wondering, why is there such a disconnect between how I hear my voice in my head and how it comes out on a recording? Turns out I wasn't alone in this. Millions of people hate their recorded voice. Some claim it sounds alien or annoying, others just cringe. So, what's going on here? The science of sound is two pathways to your eardrum. Let's start with the physical. When you speak, your voice reaches your ears in two distinct ways. One way is air conduction. This is the way everyone else hears your voice. The sound waves your vocal cords produce travel through the air and into your ears. Bone conduction. Here's the kicker. When you speak, your vocal vibrations also travel through the bones and tissues of the skull. This creates a slightly deeper, richer tone that you hear internally. So, when you're talking normally, you hear a composite of both of these signals. Your brain blends them, creating the version of your voice that you're used to. But when you hear a recording, all you get is air conduction. No bone conducted vibrations, just the raw external sound. And if you're like most people, that feels weird. Like you've heard your grandpa's answering machine message or a toddler's voice memo, not you. To test this, try this. Press your fingers gently to your throat while speaking. You'll feel the vibrations. That's the bone conduction. Now imagine that same sensation layered into every word you've ever said. That's the version of your voice you know, the recording. It's like a stranger with your brain. The psychological twist, dissonance and dislike. But here's where it gets more interesting. Even if the science explains the mechanics of the mismatch, it doesn't explain the emotion. Why does hearing your own voice on a recording feel so unpleasant? Let's talk about perception versus reality. We spend our whole lives equating our internal monologue with a version of our voice that no one else has access to. It's part of our identity. The way we imagine ourselves talking, thinking, even dreaming, when we hear a recording, that identity is threatened. It's like seeing a photo of yourself that distorts your features, jarring, disorienting, even offensive. Studies suggest this can trigger a self-discrepancy theory response. That's the psychological idea that we experience discomfort when our actual self doesn't align with our ideal self. If your recorded voice doesn't match the version of yourself you've curated, whether that's in your mind, on social media, or in your career, you might feel a sense of failure or fraud. There's also the factor of familiarity versus novelty. We're not used to hearing our own voice so directly and objectively. Normally, our brains edit out the noise of our own speech to focus on what others might think. Hearing a recording is like flipping the script. Now it's all about me. No filters, no distractions, just me. And humans are notoriously awkward when faced with their own raw data, cultural cues, and the media mirror. We're also living in a time where we're constantly exposed to our own voice. Podcasts, TikTok videos, Zoom calls, voice memos. It's all a loop of self auditioning. And yet, the tools we use to record ourselves don't always flatter us. Microphones can amplify quirks like that snobby like or the pesky lisp. Editing software can distort pitch or clarity. Then there's the media. Think about movies, audiobooks, or even commercials. You rarely hear people's unfiltered voices. Instead, we're sold a version of speech, smooth, practiced, and meticulously curated. So when you drop a raw, unedited recording of your own voice into that landscape, well, it's bound to feel inadequate. But here's the thing. Everyone else is in the same boat. Yet we don't hate our friend's voice when they record themselves. Why? Maybe because we're comparing them to a different mental model. Their recorded voice matches how we've imagined it based on their words, tone, and context. It's familiar. Yours, that's the one you have to reconcile with your inner monologue. The bigger picture, self acceptance, and the voice inside you. Let's zoom out a bit. If we hate our own voice, what else do we dislike about ourselves? The gap between how we think we should be and how we actually are isn't just in our voices, it's in our reflections, our careers, our relationships. This phenomenon, I think, is a microcosm of the human condition. It also raises a question. What if the way we hear our voices isn't the problem? Maybe it's the narrative we built around it. The stories we tell ourselves about how we should sound, act, or feel to be acceptable. Think about how people train for roles, like acting or singing, or how voice coaches help others find their authentic tone. Could hearing your own voice be a call to listen, not to fix, but to understand it? Coping and curing the cringe. All right, let's not leave you in existential dread. If you want to reduce the cringe factor, here are a few practical tips. Hear yourself more. The more you listen to recordings of your voice, whether in meetings, podcasts, or even voicemails, the less shocking it becomes. It's like getting used to a new outfit. Weird at first, then just normal. Record with intention. Next time you're recording something, do 2 versions, one raw, one edited. Compare them. Notice how small changes in pacing or tone shift your perception. Reframe the narrative. Ask yourself, is the problem the sound or my judgment of it? If we can untangle the two, maybe the cringe starts to fade. Finale, the paradox of the voice. Here's what I've come to realize. Our voices are paradoxes. They're both intimate and public, a reflection of our inner world and a tool for connecting with others. They carry our history, our emotions, and our biases. So maybe the reason we cringe at our own voice isn't because it's wrong, but because it's a mirror. And mirrors, as we all know, can be scary. They don't flinch, they don't edit, they just show us what is. But what if we could hear our voice not as a flaw, but as a kind of fingerprint, a reminder that we're real, flawed, and human? That thought might not cure the cringe, but maybe it can soften the edge. Thanks for hanging out with me this week. If you found this episode resonant, or if you cringed so hard you hit your phone, drop me a voice memo. I'd love to hear how you hear yourself. Until next time, stay curious.